I just want to start today's show off by saying thank you to all of our viewers and subscribers. We recently crossed 16,000 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for helping us reach this milestone. And if you would consider subscribing, I know I would greatly appreciate it. Welcome on in to Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here talking about running backs because we have a disgruntled running back, and then we've got an 8th overall pick that's getting 11 carries, and then we got a 5th round pick from last year that's getting more carries. So I just wanted to take the next 10 minutes of your time and really dive into the Atlanta Falcons running back room. So let's get started with a disgruntled back. As Cordarrelle Patterson, the Joker, tweeted out this: "Let's not forget, I really do this shit at whoever needs to see this." And attached was a video of him with a nice 10-yard run against the Bucs in a win a few weeks ago. So clearly CP84 just needs people to know he can still run well and he can still be a good running back. So when he says at whoever needs to see this, I don't think he's talking to fantasy football owners. I don't think he is very upset about his start rate on Sleeper. No, I think he's talking to his head coach, Arthur Smith, because Cordarrelle Patterson this year, after missing the first 3 games with a soft tissue injury, has come back and seen very little usage. 13 carries, 63 yards. He's got 3 grabs for no touchdowns. He has not been an impact player. He has been a complete shell of what he was his first 2 years in Atlanta. Now, the question is, well, if you want to get more of Cordarrelle Patterson, that means less from someone else, right? If you want to get more of Cordarrelle Patterson, there's either 2 options. Option A, someone else gets less touches. Option number 2, you have longer drives. So you have more plays offensively. I'm sure the Falcons would love to have longer drives, right? Well, teams do want to score quickly. So there's a little bit of a give and take on that second one. So let's just go back to option A, number 1. Someone else gets less touches so that number 84 can get more touches. Well, who do you want to take touches from? Bijan Robinson? No. He should be getting more touches. Tyler Allgeier would be the next best option, but I don't think Allgeier's been a bad back for Atlanta this year. He unfortunately was just put in a really tough spot as the guy who's going to split carries with the 8th overall pick that everyone wants to see get more touches. So even when Allgeier has a touchdown, half of the fan base is like, well, number 7 could have scored that. Like, damn it. You know what I mean? So Jonnu Smith, every time he's touched the ball, it's been a pretty good overall usage, right? A lot of yards, touchdowns being picked up. I don't want to see Kyle Pitts get less targets. I definitely don't want to see Drake London get less targets when he comes back. So we're kind of stuck at this between a hard and a rock spot of, well, if you want more of Cordarrelle Patterson, who are you taking touches away from? I've yet to see someone come out with a very good and not even super detailed, but at least a coherent argument of, I want to see Patterson get 5 more carries a game, and that means 3 less from this guy and 2 less from that guy. I'm waiting. Please let me know in the comment section if you've got a plan to get Patterson more involved offensively. But this definitely falls under Arthur Smith's umbrella, because as an offensive-minded head coach who's the play caller and everything, you get to decide who gets to see the ball a good amount. Like, sure, you don't get to decide where the quarterback throws it every time, but you can decide when to call a run play, when to call a wide receiver screen, when to draw up a play that is designed solely for one guy. So clearly Arthur Smith does not have a big vision for Patterson in his offense moving forward, at least as of now. Maybe that could change. We're only at the halfway mark of the year, but as of now, CP84 is good for 3, maybe 4 touches a game, and he clearly is not happy with that role. And unfortunately for him, there is no out. We are past the NFL trade deadline. So if that tweet came out yesterday on Monday and the NFL trade deadline was today, maybe things would be a bit different. But for now, he is stuck in this minimal role, and I don't really see a way out. But I want to know what your confidence level is in Arthur Smith. Scale 1 to 10 in the comment section. Shifting gears, let's talk about the other running backs on this team, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Allgeier. Now, the fan base, and somewhat rightfully so, has been up in arms over the lack of usage for Bijan so far. And I personally was surprised to see he really outsnaps Tyler Allgeier, 65% so far offensively this year for Bijan, compared to just 37% for Allgeier. But the carries favor Tyler Allgeier. Now, sure, Bijan basically being injured or inactive for that Bucs game skews it a little bit, but even if you gave Bijan an extra 10 carries and took 10 carries away from Allgeier and had them play a similar amount for the Bucs game, they would be at about a 50-50% workload. Now, I know that there are a lot of NFL coaches out there that like to slowly incorporate their rookie running backs into the offense, but Bijan is not your average rookie running back. The guy was picked 8th overall, so he could hit the ground running. So he could be utilized immediately. Like, that's why he was such an amazing prospect, that you could get a rookie running back who would run like he has the vision of a 4 or 5 year back, but the legs of a 19-year-old. Like, you just do not see those guys come out into the draft every year. And personally, it's a disservice to this entire fan base to keep tuning into games, showing up to games, and have them splitting touches with Tyler Allgeier. It's a war crime. You do not use the 8th overall pick on a running back and have him get 11 carries when Tyler Allgeier, and no offense to Tyler Allgeier, he's kind of in a tough spot here where the whole fan base really wants to see Bijan, but Allgeier still gets touchdowns, he gets first downs, he does a good job running the ball, but Bijan is the guy we're showing up to see. And he's not a bust or anything like that. It's just a huge head scratcher as to why Arthur Smith refuses to play him more. It's like he goes up against Bijan every week in fantasy football. You yourself, Arthur Smith, said, no one gives a shit about your fantasy team. Well, can you start using Bijan a little bit more? I've got more to rattle off my chest here about this, but a quick shout out from our sponsor today, Prize Picks. Now, what is Prize Picks? Well, it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. With quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and enormous selection of players and stat types, Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So I picked a couple of guys for this upcoming week of games, and I'm going with the more on Mac Jones, 217.5 passing yards. I heard a rumor that if the Patriots lose, Bill Belichick might get fired. So I think Mac Jones is going to have a good day. I'll take the less on Kenny Pickett, 215.5 passing yards against the Packers. Kenny Pickett sucks. And I'll take the more on Deshaun Watson, 211.5 passing yards, the lowest number for all 3 quarterbacks, despite him being the best quarterback of all 3 of those guys. So I like those selections. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The link for that is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Now, as I was saying, splitting touches between Bijan and Allgeier, I cannot make sense of. Because I said this on my video on Sunday and Monday, and here we are on Tuesday. I defended Arthur Smith, Terry Fontenot, and the entire Falcons war room for using a top 10 pick on a running back because they were going to use Bijan Robinson a lot for what they wanted to do offensively. Instead, everything I thought I knew about the Falcons offense going into this year has been a 180. They are passing it way more than I anticipated. They are running it way less. They have a really good offensive line that wants to run block, that wants to run forward, not backward. And instead, they're doing the opposite of that, despite having clear struggles at the quarterback position. If you want to reduce the turnovers, how about you run the ball a little bit more while getting Bijan more touches? Now, sure, him fumbling against Minnesota does not help that part of the argument. But besides that, everything I said is true. Now, Bijan this year, I crunched the numbers. Here are the numbers that he is on pace for. 278 touches between carries and receptions, just over 1,000 yards, a 5-yard rushing average, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Now, for reference, here's how that compares to all of these guys in their rookie seasons. Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, all players selected in the top 10 of their respective drafts, just like Bijan. Now, McCaffrey, I was blown away to see, only had 435 rushing yards his rookie year. He did a lot in the receiving department, but still, I thought that number would be higher. But Saquon, 1,300 yards. Even Leonard Fournette had a little bit more than what Bijan's on pace for. Ezekiel Elliott led the NFL in rushing his rookie year with 1,600 yards and 15 touchdowns. But look at the touches, right? McCaffrey was underutilized, but Barkley, Fournette, Zeke, all over 300. Bijan, not on pace for 300. So with that being said, next up, I want to talk about the Falcons' red zone struggles and how Bijan in this ground game can solve some of those issues. Because the crazy thing is, Atlanta is sitting at 4-5 right now, but they are so close to just tackling Josh Dobbs on fourth down and winning that game. Capiche? It's over, right? There are so many games. If an offensive pass interference is called on DeAndre Hopkins, they win that game. They lost by 5. That's a 7-point game, 7-point swing right there. So they are so close to winning a lot of these games, but I think a lot of it comes down to the red zone struggles. Because look at the touches that some of the key players that were selected with top 10 draft picks, premium assets, are doing inside the 10-yard line closest to the end zone. Jonnu Smith has 4 touches. 4. He's the backup tight end. And he's got 2 more touches than the tight end you picked 4th overall. He's got 1 more touch than the running back you selected 8th overall. And your red zone offense is scoring 50% of the time. 19th in the NFL. It's not the worst red zone offense, but 19th when you've got Bijan, Pitts, and Drake London, that's just criminal. It has to be better than that. I just don't understand the obsession with Jonnu Smith. And it's not like Jonnu's a bad player, by the way. Him and Allgeier have unfortunately been the punching bags because they are just stealing yards and targets away from players that the fan base wants to see more of, given where they were selected. Because Jonnu is doing a good job, like had a 60-yard touchdown against Minnesota. But can we all agree, maybe he shouldn't be the guy getting an end around at the goal line when you have Bijan Robinson in the backfield? I'd rather use Tyler Allgeier in that place, for crying out loud. Like, if you want to use an 8th overall pick on a running back, as a coach, you have to have a great plan in place as to how to justify that selection by using that running back in key situations, like in the red zone, turning 3 points into 4 points. Because if they score a touchdown on Sunday, instead of kicking a chip shot 23-yard field goal, that's a 4-point swing. That's the difference between being 4-5 and 5-4. Now, looking ahead here, let's just peek at Atlanta's remaining schedule for a second and kind of get everyone up to speed on what's to come and what to expect for this red zone offense against the 1-8 Cardinals, who, by the way, are going to be starting Kyler Murray. So a bit of a bad break for Atlanta because Clayton Tune last week was awful, and that would have been a much easier opponent. But after the Cardinals, they get a much-needed bye before preparing for New Orleans twice. The Jets just lost, so they make them 4-4. The Bucs are 3-5. The Panthers stink. The Colts are maybe better with Gardner Minshew, honestly. The Bears are not very good at all. And then you round out the season in New Orleans. So looking at their next 5 games specifically, if the Falcons' offensive ground game wants to turn around, it's got a good slate of games to do it. They don't play many great run defenses coming up. 26th in the Arizona Cardinals. 17th in the New Orleans Saints. 30th, that blew me away, in the New York Jets. Top 10 in the Tampa Bay, Buccaneers. And then 28th in the Carolina Panthers. So lucky for Arthur Smith, despite him making very questionable and poor decisions at times, he's going to have time after time after time to redeem himself because he plays a cupcake schedule moving forward. But the question I want to pose to everyone watching right now before I let you all go, will the Falcons make the playoffs? Yes or no? Let me know down in the comment section whether or not you think this team can pull their bootstraps up and figure it out in the second half of the year. That's going to do it for us on this edition of Falcons Today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you all later.